I've tried multiple times to put pressure on the leaders. They refuse to do the right thing. Stewart's diminishing of the seriousness of the many claims last Sunday was a abomination.
Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Wake Up and Win podcast with my wife, Christina.
Hello.
And myself, Blaise. Some of you that are new around here, you might be going, who are you guys? And why are you talking about this week? Well, number one, if you go back to our very first episode introducing ourselves, I'm very active on Facebook. Actually, I got 25,000 followers, but on YouTube, I'm not so much so. But with our insurance agency, we hire agents all over the nation. That's what we do. But the reason we're talking about this is because in this podcast, Wake Up and Win podcast is really for us to share our lives, share our experiences, share whether it's in our business, whether it's in our family, whether it's in our marriage, whether it's in our faith. So my background was actually, I got into IHOPKC as far as following their information and at that time, their CDs were coming out. In 2004 was the first time I ever heard Misty Edwards singing in a prayer room set. And I went, I resonate with that. I was already in ministry. I was how old was I in 2004? I don't know. I was like 23 years old or 22 or 23 years old. And I had just heard it and I went, I so resonate with that. I finished college and at the ministry I was working at, doing online college, and I went there in 2008 full time. Jumped on, got support. Literally at 2008, I raised $3,000 a month of support, and I went there and plugged in immediately to their night watch from midnight to 6. Night watch is where Stuart Greaves is the leader over night watch. He was then. He has been for many, many years prior to him being the executive leader now of IHOP. So the reason why we're talking about this is because not only that, I've always been very vocal online, especially Facebook, and I got a lot of people to go to IHOP because I was so vocal about my experience there. Not the negative experience when I blogged in 2015, but when I shared about everything back in the day, lots of people went there. Lots of people plugged into Mike Bickle, because of a lot of the things that I shared. You might go, I don't know you for nothing. And that's fine, totally fine. You might be like, what gives you authority to speak on this? You're just an insurance guy. Fine, whatever. What gives you authority to comment on this? You're just a guy that works at something, right? Like it doesn't matter, right? We're just here to share our experience. And if you want to listen, great. If you don't, that's totally fine. But that's why we're talking about this, because it's really near and dear to our hearts. And Christina's walked with me through so much of my experience from being jaded toward IHOP and even towards some of the things of the Lord, like as far as in charismatic Christianity, because of my experience there, to walking through healing of that and to now being in a solid charismatic church and reconciling with some of the leaders at IHOP to now going, oh my gosh. So that's why we're talking about this. I want to mention the phone call we had today. Okay. But first I want to read this verse. Okay. Proverbs 31, 1 through 9. Okay, well, not 1 through 9, but Proverbs 31, I don't know which one it is, but it says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. This would be the call right now for many ministers out there and for just everyone out there right now. We're feeling this like never before. And some people would say, well, what do you mean who cannot speak for themselves? What are you saying? Like if somebody was a victim of Mike Bickle through this process, they can speak for themselves. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about the phone call we had today. Obviously, we can't mention anybody's names, but we spoke to somebody that is well connected and well known for many people that is currently working with victims of Mike Bickle. And this gentleman said, we don't want their names out there at all right now. Clearly, there is a law firm Stinson has been hired by IHOPKC. And people say, well, not to represent IHOPKC. Okay, well, to investigate this. Well, there was an interesting video this morning that I want to share. This lady, she was on the last episode, what's her name, Julie Royce. This lady actually says, as an attorney, this lady, Rachel Den Hollander, is on Julie Royce's Twitter.
Really steer away from law firms by and large, because it is, speaking as an attorney, I can say it is who's somebody who works with attorneys all the time. It's very difficult for an attorney to switch out of liability mode into transparency and truth mode. Law school flips your moral compass on its head. The way attorneys are taught to think of fiduciary responsibility, the way they're taught to think of people even, really makes it difficult for a practicing attorney. Not impossible. I've seen it happen, but I really do steer away from law firms by and large.
And she says, as an attorney, it is very hard for attorneys to turn off their defending, protecting against liabilities mindset and go into, let's just seek the truth and investigate all this and hear from all sides and then put out a report that doesn't necessarily protect these people. But yeah, in this conversation, this gentleman said to me today, without getting into, there's so many things I'd like to say that just can't say. And it actually makes sense why I'm seeing some people that know stuff, like, I can't say this. And It's actually because of the victims. And so we have to speak up for these victims because some things are known right now, not only by Mike Bickle, but also by others in the leadership team at IHOPKC. There are things that are known right now by these people, and they are not coming out with it. They're going to let a third party. Let's just talk about the the body of Christ at large. What do you do? What do you do when when there's a discrepancy in the body of Christ, or something illegal done, or something that's against the law of God, like immorality of some kind? Well, you repent, right? Or if somebody's your leader, you call them out, right? You call them out. You don't say, we'll let a third party come and investigate this. What if you know that what was done was wrong? Do you go, well, we'll just get a third party to come investigate this? What is this verse right here? I'm going to share this real quick. And Leviticus 5:1. The one where you have to Leviticus, where you have to cut your beard a certain way. I just liked this verse though. He said, if a person sins because he does not speak up when he hears a public charge to testify regarding something he has seen or learned about, he will be held responsible. So if something is known and you don't speak up, you will be held responsible. Now, if it comes out in the light in this lifetime, that's bad. But no matter what, you will stand before the Lord for what you knew and what you did not say. And so that's important. So whether our platform is just this little tiny bit of people, or on Facebook, I got this 25,000, just a big fish in a small pond, whatever we've got, we're going to speak up. And I would implore any leader at IHOPKC, be it Stuart Greaves, Isaac Bennett, Dave Sliker, anyone on the current ELT, if you know something about these allegations to be true in any shape, way, or form, then come out with it. Or also, I would encourage you to resign from being the defendant for Mike Bickle, defending this man, because it's the totally wrong side of history at this point. So this person told us this morning on the phone, some of these things, and these people are they are clearly afraid for some of their names to be coming out, right, and to be leaking, and so on and so forth. So take it from there.
Yes, we obviously had a very strong shift,
striking conversation this morning.
Approach. If you listen to the first episode that we did, we were still processing, we felt like this was very strange and very sketchy and seemed likely that these allegations are true. But I was telling Blaise, I had room in my heart and in my brain for them to be still just this little piece where I was like, I had a little bit of hope that maybe this is all a big misunderstanding. Maybe these are false. You don't want to believe this is true. This is a nightmare. So I still had that tiny bit of hope. And then after the conversation today, I have none of that. There's no part of me that believes that any part of this isn't true. And so at this point, I feel like we've shifted to where, okay, it's time to be a voice for those people. And it's time to make people aware of this. And that's why we're sharing these things. Because I feel like that is, like you said, this is war.
Yeah. Righteous indignation for sure. And it's definitely there's definitely zeal behind it. And after we hung up from the phone, Christina almost started crying, which
I didn't even know I had that like inside me, those emotions of like, what am I going to, like, why am I going to cry? Like, I'm not even as connected to this as you are, but it was that loss of hope. I didn't even know I held on to that hope anymore because I thought I was so convinced that this is all true. But once it was confirmed that it is all true, I was like, oh no, now there's literally no hope left in me. Now it's time to fight.
Which is, and some people would say like, and this is what I actually like about what Dr. Michael Brown said last week. He said, there's no sides to this when it comes to the opinions, meaning like in the body of Christ, it's not like somebody wins if one of these things is right? It's like we should be on the side of just exposing darkness and making things come to light. Right? That's Ephesians 5. Have nothing to do with the deeds of darkness, rather expose them, right? Expose this stuff. And especially you go, well, what will happen to the church? What will happen to people's faith if it's exposed? You know what? Like bring it all down right now. And when you say bring it all down, what do you mean, Blaise? I'm talking about the structures of man, the systems that we've created to protect positions and power and all this stuff. It's like, just bring it all down. Like, what if it's just Babylon? What if it's just freaking Babylon that's built on power and influence and money? You go, well, money. I mean, you look at Mike Bickle. He literally boasted of driving a 2008 Accord or Honda or something like that, and giving so much money away. And he only lives in a small duplex. Literally, I used to honor him for those things. Going, but while the man's literally hiding sexual sin from his past and possibly massive abuse. Not just sexual sin, but also like using power and authority and control to abuse. And now I'm watching other people stand up on a stage and discredit statements from women, people that I was working to reconcile with and hopefully like honor again. And I'm going, I want nothing to do with that structure. I don't care if Jesus Christ himself had prophesied that 24/7 prayer would come from Kansas City in order to bring about this, that, and the other. Well, not from these people. Not from these people. That angel has left the building. that cloud has moved. That, sometimes do I believe in prophecy? Yes. But is this biblical prophecy? No. This is contingent on the obedience of these people, whether it's legit prophecy or totally bunk prophecies, whatever you guys think about any of the prophecies that came about IHOPKC or not. They didn't fulfill the call. They jacked up, and they're not chosen for whatever that mandate was. I can guarantee you that. And if you're still there trying to hold on to everything, oh, I trust God. No, you trust an experience you had that brought you there. But sometimes things change. So if y'all want to hold on and keep that structure going, go for it. Go for it. But that thing is going to financially bleed when the truth comes out.
All right.
Let's talk about speaking up for the voiceless. Let's talk about, let's go into this, Joel Richardson. I'll just kind of introduce Joel. Not that we're having him on the podcast. Maybe we can get him. He won't respond to my tweet. Joel Richardson wrote some bestsellers on Amazon, and he's eschatology guy, end times guy. He's a speaker and an author, and I really like Joel. And he's a great communicator, great teacher. Well, he was on the docket to speak at their conference in November. Now, the guy's not affiliated with IHOP, but he's just on their conference docket to speak. He spoke on Vlad, one of the they call him the Demon Slayers, on his podcast. He spoke on that. So he's made his rounds, and he's a popular Bible teacher. I think he wrote the Islamic Antichrist or something like that. So Joel comes out the other day, and it's interesting because you and I just started watching Joel on YouTube
we did.
2
We've
months
been
ago.
watching some of his teachings, and I really, really like him and respect him. So it was so strange to see him come out with the way that he's tweeting. So,
He came out swinging.
Yeah, he did. He did come out swinging. And I think he's the only person that I've seen.
The
if you guys have seen people, then send it to us.
Of notoriety.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Of pastoral notoriety.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the only things that we've seen are Dr. Michael Brown, Rick Joyner, Chris Reed. But this is somebody that's coming out on the other side, if you will. So it's been very eye-opening.
eye-opening
to watch. And I feel like I want to share that with people.
Yeah, let's read some of his tweets.
I feel like some people too who are hearing about this, all you've heard is like read Charisma magazine or something. And that's all you know of the situation is how much like Stephen Strang loves
Steve
Mike.
Strang, good friends with Mike. But if these are true, then hopefully we can
all of his buddies are saying,
Rick
but
Joyner.
like there's more to this story. There's another side. So anyways, I wanted to read this from Joel Richardson. He posted this on November 2nd. So this is even before some other stuff started coming out.
It was before the second statement from IHOP. It was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He said, regarding the IHOP scandal, how these type of things tend to unfold is a pattern as old as mankind. The first effort will be to discredit all of the men and women who have come forward as whistleblowers and their advocates. This has already happened. Mike will likely make but it hadn't happened whenever he said that.
Wow.
He said this November 2nd, and then on Sunday that happened at the Sunday service.
He's a prophet.
Mike will likely make an official mea culpa.
Hold on, let me see that. He had a misspelling. Mike will likely make an official.
No, it's not a misspelling. I think
I
that's
don't
a
know
word.
what that means. A statement, let's just say.
Statement in which he takes responsibility for some issues, but not nearly all of the things for which he is actually guilty. One of these is somewhat credible. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This will be enough, however, to elicit tremendous
26
sympathy
years ago,
and support.
Yeah. So prior to the founding of IHOP,
Mm-hmm.
there is one of these that happened prior to the founding of IHOP, and it's somewhat credible.
Yeah.
That's that type of a statement.
There will be a friendly or a weak investigation. This is before they announced that they
There'll be
hired a
third
law
party.
firm,
Yeah, a
which
law
will
firm.
definitely not be an investigation or a weak one.
And remember, just for those of you that are just plugging in and haven't listened to the previous episodes, they hired GraceNet, who does this. That's what they do, is they investigate third party into churches and sexual abuse allegations, and they help both move forward. Well, they hired them in 2018 to investigate something. They found out something, and they did not move forward with GraceNet's recommendations. IHOP just.
So this time they're not even going that direction. They just got a law firm.
A law firm.
It says Mike will likely be removed from ministry for a short period, but then reinstated. I want to be very clear here. Mike Bickle was my hero. I esteemed him not only for his excellent Bible teaching, but more than anything for his integrity and character. But based on everything that I have seen and heard, I absolutely believe that he is a wolf in sheep's clothing who needs to be removed from ministry permanently. I am willing to lose everything over this. Before this is all said and done, many more heartbreaking revelations will emerge. If they don't, just know that there is so much being covered up, enough to make one sick. I understand that many out there are trying to understand this nightmare. Many will likely be very angry at me for saying these things. What I'm saying is truth, and I am willing to die on this hill.
The man has a ministry. Some of their YouTube videos get over 1 million views. He's a best-selling author, Bible teacher, conference speaker on the circuit. He said, I am willing to die on this hill. Another tweet I saw later was somebody was coming back and forth with him. He said, look, I'm willing to lose my everything over this and just get a painting job. Because I think he used to be a commercial painter or something like that. I don't know what I'm willing to go
He said
paint.
he's willing to lose his ministry over this.
Which I just commend. I know that, not that I think Joel's going to watch this, but if he does, we'll tweet out until he does. But I commend Joel Richardson for speaking up prior to anybody else really speaking up like this. Besides other people that are like not high level influencers, because there are others and that people just be like, you just have to ignore. But this is something that people have to pay attention to. So
he's causing a stir.
He's causing a stir. I appreciate it. And after the conversation we had just recently with the person working with victims, I understand why he's being a little bit aloof on details, because there's certain things you just cannot say, unfortunately.
All right, let me read another one.
Yeah, keep going.
All right, so somebody tweeted at him and said, I just don't understand how you can assume guilt on Mike's part and also be assuming the worst about David, Sliker, and Stuart Greaves. And Joel said, I sat in the leadership room with Stuart and Sliker on Saturday for nearly 2 hours and pleaded with them to immediately call for a third-party investigation. Today, Stuart will not even return my text, and Sliker refuses to answer if they hired anyone.
So this obviously we know that they have hired a third-party investigation team, which is Stinson Law Firm, Stinson LLC. Now this was on the 2nd, right? So point of that too is that he literally has spent time with these guys just right before these statements. So he is not like some outsider. Keep going.
Okay. So this guy Joshua said, he's been preaching for a while now on how the end times will be marked by betrayals and accusations among brothers. Not a direct quote, just the gist. I remember hearing sermons about it back in the spring. It kind of reeked of something odd back then and feels even more odd now. So kind of like how he was talking about the black horse and all these accusations will come during the end times. And Joel said, preemptive gaslighting of the worst form.
If you look at the book of Revelation, chapter 12, okay, I'm just proving that this insurance guy has read the Bible. Book of Revelation, chapter 12, it says, the devil has come down. He was cast down. The devil has come down to you, and he's with great rage. And one of the things that the devil is called is the accuser of the brethren. So Mike would use that whole thing to say, Mike would use that entire thing to say, this is an end time sign that the devil would come with great rage and accusing the brethren. And when brothers accuse brothers, causing brothers to accuse brothers, that's going to be a sign of the end times. So no matter what you think about the end times, I literally had somebody tell me on the thing, like, well, the end times have already happened. Not the end times, but the book of Revelation's already been completed, in 70 AD. I'm like, dude, I know what partial preterism is. I was that for a little while, and I'm not now. But whatever you think about all of that, and post-trib, pre-trib, all that stuff, that doesn't matter. What we're looking at is a guy that utilized his theology to cover for his sin.
That he knew
was coming out. Why? Speaking to another issue here, the very first statement by these guys was, we recently found out about this. The first statement. Joel Richardson says they found out in...
He has another tweet that says like January 2022.
January 2022. Isaac Bennett said, I've been crying for weeks over this.
After they just said, we just found out a couple days ago.
Yeah.
How you been crying for weeks?
Yeah, that was something that somebody pointed out. And who knows about the timing of that. But and I'm not even saying Isaac. I honestly feel for Isaac Bennett in his position being so young. I think he's probably my age or younger. And his dad was there at IHOP in leadership. And now he is the pastor of this Forerunner church. I don't think he knows any of this stuff. I think this is all shocking to him. And now he's having to stand up there and comfort the people and tell them oh yeah, we're hiring the investigation team. I'm just like, dude, if you sense anything, run. Just the best sign that somebody actually cares about this whole thing is a resignation letter. In my opinion, any ELT person or anybody that's involved in this that actually goes, oh, I trust Alan Hood. He was my good buddy for 20 years building the House of Prayer. Alan freaking Hood. Wes Martin, Brian Kim, all these guys. I trust those guys. This reeks of something weird going on here. Resign. Not because I so desire that the House of Prayer doesn't have leadership and they struggle I don't care about all that. I care about this thing needs to come out. Keep reading.
So I want to say one thing too. Sometimes whenever people, even about them, like Alan Hood, and people are saying oh, former IHOP employees, they're just disgruntled employees.
Exactly.
They have an axe to grind.
Mind
It looks
blowing.
like this. But here's something about Joel Richardson is he doesn't have an axe to grind. He was literally going to speak there. This says November 16th to the 18th. That is in a week. So listen to this tweet. Somebody said, will you still be doing the School of Messengers November 16th to the 18th at IHOPKC? I was considering signing up for the online participation, but not sure if it will still be happening. Bless you. Joel said, there is no way I could share the platform with men who have been so dishonest.
He said they lied to his face in another tweet. Yeah. I'm telling you, if there are any Night Watch interns, IHOPKC interns, early in the process staff members, this is going to sound I just know how the language is used over there. They take Isaiah chapter 60 or 62, get on the wall, get on the wall, be an intercessor for Jerusalem. I don't think you have to be in Kansas City at a house of prayer to be on the wall. I saw some people in that prayer room that never prayed a prayer in their life. They sat on their laptops and their phones the whole time from midnight to 6, sitting I mean, probably not really, but like that prayer room, it's a great little room. But guess what? Like I said, I think the cloud has moved. Something's going on. Something's going down. And if you've been there for 5 years, you've been there 7 years, I understand. I understand why you defend it to the get and be like, no way. If you've been there 10 years, 20 years, I understand why you go, no, let's keep this going. I feel a mandate, whatever. That's your thing. And I'm not going to say anything to you guys. I'm going to mainly say to those that are just getting in or been in for a year or two, like, this is your sign to exit stage left. And be an intercessor, go back home, plug into your local church and start an intercession team. Like, even if it's with a couple grandmas, like, go pray with people that like have a history of like walking with God.
Another one, let's see. This would speak to the people who are saying like, don't talk about this, delete your social media post, don't post anything, don't gossip. It's not gossip. This, Joel said, I'm sure this is very painful for you. None of us want to believe any of this is real. When wolves are devouring the sheep, that is not the time for meekness. That's strong.
That's very strong.
And that's how I feel. That's
How do
how I
you
feel
feel
now. Well, these men were supposed to like be shepherds and care for the sheep, but they're wolves. And so you cannot trust them. They're dangerous people.
So this is so crazy because, you know, we have a daughter. She's 6.
There's no way I would ever let her on any of those men. I would never let her go to IHOPKC after all of this. Like, I just can't imagine. Yeah, I like can't imagine.
Yeah. And you look at these programs and all this stuff, but you look at what's happened specifically with the way they've handled. So you go, well, like, okay, let's say Mike Bickle, it was one person, right? Well, that's enough. Again, it's enough. Let's say it was 2 people. That's more than enough. There's 3 people. Okay, now we're getting into let's say there's 3, maybe 4. Now we're getting into the realm of how many others just have not spoken up. Mm-hmm. Or if we want to get a little bit odd about this, but like, just, we know, well, let me give you an example. There are women in history, okay? And I'm not talking about specific, but there are women that have been abused by a minister, made to feel bad about it, and then made to feel like they actually aren't a victim at all. And they maybe feel kind of maybe special, or like maybe it was their fault, or maybe, so like this whole I am not a victim movement or something, like, I think it's a massive deflection. I think it's a massive deflection and downplaying for the people that we know are currently counseling with people that we know because they walked through a scenario with the leader of IHOPKC and got sexually abused. Anyway, any other tweets that you're seeing there that we want to hit?
I had another one. Oh yeah, this is just the one where he said he caught them lying to his face. He said, I met with David Sliker and Stewart for 2 hours on Saturday. I'm scheduled to speak with them at IHOP in 3 weeks. I caught them lying to my face. They won't even return my text. Don't speak about things that you know nothing about. He was responding to this person that said, was basically saying that he didn't know what he was talking about.
Saying, Joel, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So he responded and he's like, I met with them. They lied to my face. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. When you get, I remember having a conversation with a good buddy of mine, actually, really great friend of mine that's no longer in ministry, but a awesome believer. And he said to me, he was meeting with a high level ministry leader, because this guy was an incredible speaker, incredible minister. And he was meeting with a high level ministry leader that was probably on the same level as Mike Bickle. Won't name any names, but he said, this person told him, he said, once you get the machine going, you have to keep it going. Meaning like, and this wasn't even a negative statement in a way of like anything, like it was mainly about financially for ministries. And once you get things moving, just like a business, it's like, it's moving, it's going, and you have to keep it moving and you have to keep it going. I'm looking at all this and I'm going, you know, I saw somebody commented on our post on our last video, for episode 1. Thank you for this video. I'm currently an IHOPKC financial supporter from out of the state of Missouri, and I'm waiting to hear more and to find out what we want to do. Well, that's striking. Why? Because that's your paycheck. That's like, if I was there, when I was there, like the majority of my monthly income came from just people that believed in me. It's not even that they believed in IHOPKC. They just believed in me. And then they trusted that IHOPKC was a good place. But if this came out while I was getting support, I can guarantee you people would be pulling their support. And some people are. And sometimes when the river dries up, you just got to pay attention, you know? But keep going.
All right. So this person said, agreed. The only way he could possibly come back is if every single accuser were to recant and have the investigation conclude not only that he's completely innocent, but that neither Mike nor IHOPKC leadership team did anything to coerce the accusers to recant. So never. And Joel said, even if every single one of the women recanted, that would not change my mind. There's much more to the story that cannot be said publicly.
And that's kind of how I felt today. Like, with that conversation. Not that I know that the level of details he might be talking about, but just the fact that I was going, oh my gosh, I know this person, I trust this person, and they're trustworthy by many other people, and they're working with victims right now that are scared. That are scared. You went, oh, it's just false accusations. See, look, like you know, the name April Rose is all out there because she's put her name out there. What did he say to us? He said, well, I don't even know if we want to put this in there, but the AI generated.
How the I am not victim. The
way that it was
written the same and are written in the format that Mike Bickle writes his notes.
AI generated analysis. I was like, anyway, and it was clear to me that somebody was coaching them in what they were writing. It was clear. So,
and who knows what her story is or what's going on, but whatever it is, they were able to use that on Sunday for their statement.
Exactly. Just in time. Just in time with these statements. Keep going on a few others. Because we're not saying that the people that are saying I'm not a victim are not. They are or they're not.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about the ones that are. Remember the stat, 92% of people that accuse someone in the church world of sexual abuse, it comes out that it was true. 8%, you find out that it's not. Something just be logical. Likely Mike Bickle, probably your hero, if you're in that world, did something. Go ahead.
He said, very hopeful that IHOP finally announced, this is after Sunday when they announced the law firm, very hopeful that IHOP finally announced a formal independent investigation and a commitment to make the findings public. This guy, Chad, said they were made aware 6 months ago. And Joel said, in another case, January 2022.
I know that guy, Chad.
You do?
I do. Yeah.
Hey, Chad.
It's crazy. It's bringing out the buddies. He said in another case they were made aware in January of 2022.
Which just makes nobody seems trustworthy at this point.
No.
Nobody there seems trustworthy. Anything they say.
I would love to give the benefit of the doubt to the ELT on stage, but you're making it real hard to do it. Like, I wouldn't want to be within like 100 miles of that, of that, not that world, because the people are precious. Like, I think about I could name many names that are still there that I love. Like, not that we're even connecting anymore, but I love those people. I know one guy that's there mainly because he ended up not following me, but I influenced an entire ministry I was a part of 500 to 1,000 people about IHOPKC. I was one of the biggest influences that got people to go from that ministry to this ministry eventually. And so I love these people. All the more reason for maybe you need to listen up again. You know, maybe there's a reason why you're hearing my voice again 10 years later on this. And it's not jaded and it's not bitter. It's actually, I mean, you can tell them literally as of the last 3 years, I've been hey, we should, it'd be so cool to live back there.
Literally talked to Stuart a month ago in a text planning for whenever he comes to North Carolina to connect with him. Really wanted to reconcile that relationship because he was your spiritual mentor and you wanted, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's devastating. It's devastating, but I'm more devastated for these women, and I'm more devastated that it's at the end of the day, this is the verse that I'm championing right now is speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. I know that there's women in these pockets around these scenarios that literally cannot speak up for themselves right now. Like they need to, and then it says, speak up and judge fairly, like judge righteously. Don't sit around and just defend the guy that's been in ministry for this many years. This is going to be, I mean, trust me, I get it. It's going to be a pile on from the world. Well, what does he say? There's a verse and he says, you are the reason that the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles, right? Like, and in that context, Gentiles just means people that are believers. Like you are the reason why the name of the Lord is blasphemed among non-believers. Well, we brought this on ourselves, church, okay? So I get it. So let's not sit here and defend Mike Bickle all day and defend this whole thing and the process. And, I guarantee it's going to be a fair process. Really? Well, let's not defend them just because we're trying to defend the name of the Lord. Let's actually love justice, love mercy, like walk humbly and say, you know what? We deserve it a little bit. Like we deserve it. And we all need to be laid low. And maybe we all need to seek the Lord in a new way right now, humbly. I guarantee you every leader in the body of Christ is shaking in their shoes right now. Every pastor that leads a church of 100 or more people is shaking in their shoes right now. Why? Because the top guy could fall. So if the top guy could fall, and if you, and these just regular guys, they go, well, man, I need to humbly keep myself in accountability, right? And I need to keep good relationships that are allowed into my life to see into my life so I don't end up doing something stupid. That's number one. Number two, they have skeletons in the closet. And it's a time for divine judgment in the house of God, for exposure to come. And that's my prayer publicly, that everybody that's done wicked deeds and wicked things to people and abused people and financial crimes and stolen from people and done all this stuff, it'd be totally exposed and completely put out. And like we said in the first episode, if you're not willing to listen to somebody on the inside of your ministry, then you're not willing to listen to somebody who's left your ministry. Maybe they're a little bit bitter, so you won't listen to them because they're bitter. If you're not willing to listen to those people, then you're going to have to listen to the secular crowd that's not Christians. They're going to come in judging. And if you don't listen to them, then you're going to have to listen to law enforcement, because God's hand is on the government to judge even, yes, the house of God, when you're doing stupid crap. That's a sermon.
All right, I like it. Okay. This one says, the leadership called in one of the whistleblowers and berated him, cursed at him, and broke relationship. Luke Bickle messaged him and called him a loser. To me, it's all so disgusting.
That's Mike Bickle's son.
Yeah.
Who this is public information, and
right.
It sounds like gossip
this
or celebrity gossip.
This part does sound gossipy, but it's not, because it's out there and it's important.
And it actually needs to be known.
It's important.
Because one of the women who said, I am not a victim, is actually a person who wrote that same type
copy
of post,
and paste. I'm not a victim.
Same type of post, similar type of post that I'm sure she wrote, because there was things about her story in there. But she was in an affair with Mike Bickle's son, Luke Bickle,
mm-hmm.
and
that's out there all over social media, because she put that out there. I'm not a victim, and family members of Mike Bickle came out and said, you're a liar. I'm not even going to say, said like, you are a liar and you're not telling the whole story. She ruined.
And they said, this woman is not trustworthy.
So even the same thing, like, okay, so Luke Bickle was having an affair with one of the I am not a victims. It's like,
yeah,
it's
a freaking
too messy.
mess. It's a freaking mess.
And
again, like I said, you can sound like gossip or this, that, and the other. I'll tell you what,
or you can open your eyes and connect the dots.
Open your eyes. Like, stop calling everything gossip and slander and this, that, and the other. It's like, just pay attention and judge righteously.
Mm-hmm. This one is a response to Sunday, to their statement on Sunday. Joel said, I've tried multiple times to put pressure on the leaders. They refuse to do the right thing. Stewart's diminishing of the seriousness of the many claims last Sunday was a damn abomination.
Whoa, I don't ever hear my wife cuss, but Joel did it
That
first.
was a quote. You'll have to censor that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that actually, like, when I heard the statement, this is the power of spiritual leadership, okay? When I heard it, I put myself back in my shoes of 2008, 2009, and I was so on their side. And when I say that, I mean, we had already done our first episode. So you heard my zeal about everything that first episode. but like, I was like so hopeful, like, okay, this is good. Okay, this statement's good. And I've even seen people say, what's wrong with that statement? There's nothing bad about that statement. I'm like, when I look at it with the information I know, now I know they diminished the credibility of the victims by saying somewhat credible or has some credibility. Why would you even throw that word some there? They are either credible or they're not. It's either credible or it's not. Is Alan Hood credible? Is he like got a chip on his shoulder? You all know that. He was your buddy. So yeah, it's mind blowing. That tweet is a really great tweet.
This one is in response to somebody wanting him to kind of like give more info and be like, people keep saying there's so much more to be said that can't be said publicly, and that like upsets people.
It's annoying, yeah.
So anyway, so he said, knowing that a wolf in sheep's clothing is being protected by a corrupt organization should trigger anger. Truth will eventually come to light and justice will be served. Until then, I have total grace for dumb comments like this, which is hilarious. And also it's so true. And you have to put yourself there and be like, okay, these people haven't done as much research. They haven't seen the things we've seen. They haven't talked to the people we've talked to.
I'm friends with so many IHOPers.
This is a process of like discovery. And just because somebody's here and they're finding it hard to believe, which we were there, then like have grace for that. Like eventually everyone's going to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good reminder.
And that's like that, the comment on that we saw that girl Joanna commented, who she was connected to the ELT. She wasn't on the ELT, but she was very in the in crowd with Misty and all these people. And she said, what level of detail would be sufficient for you? You know, timestamps of the actual the names of the victims. You want that? Like, so what we are information. I want to say this word. I don't know.
What? We're
information whores. Like we just want information. It's like we feed off of information. Because we want details, right? But like, I don't even know the details of like these like horrific acts, but I know based on what's going on and who I've talked to, I go, this is real. It's painful. It's real. Now it's real. That's why you feel the energy now. But like sometimes we have to think about, not sometimes, all the time, we got to think about these victims. Like it's so hard. Like, and I'm a dude. So there are dude victims out there for sure. I even mentioned about that first story about the guy that the gentleman that was like 20 or 21 that got raped by a leader at IHOP. And he mentioned it to another peer at IHOP this was 12 years ago, and they didn't know what to do with it. That leader moved on and was leading at another ministry. I don't even know the name of the person. And my buddy who told me about this, he's like, dude, I didn't know. I was 18 and I'm listening to this guy. I didn't even know what to do with it. So I brought it up to a leader in our core group and he didn't know what to do. And so it went nowhere. Right. So like, I'm a dude, but this is very limited that it's happening to dudes. It's happening to women all the time. And then it's turned around to be like, well, you were probably wearing this, or you probably were coming on to him, or you like, why did you let him come in? Or like, you know, the whole story of Gracia or whatever, like that was on that Heaven Bent podcast. I'm just like, I can imagine, you know, this guy kept coming over, kept trying to get her back, you know, back to dating him. And then suddenly, boom, something happens. She says, I was raped. And then she's taken into a room, drilled over and over and over. That's not rape. Yeah. Tell me, dude, yeah, that's not rape, you know? And to the point where she's like, fine.
Yeah.
You know?
She's like, just make this end.
And then, I mean, not to bring like the newest episode of that podcast, they actually had a recording of her because she flew in from out of town when she heard the statement was going to come up. And she went to the front and talked to Stuart Greaves. And he said, I told you to go to the police. And she was like, so she went and found the witnesses that were there for those meetings. They said, no, he didn't. He actually told you not to report this.
Which seems to be the pattern from that other article too. It's like they don't want, first of all, any kind of media
negative
press,
publicity.
And they definitely don't want anybody to go to the cops because that's like not a good look. So it's all self-preservation.
The investigation down low would trickle to the top.
Right. And it makes sense when you read that now with what we know, and even with everything coming out about like these Mike Bickle accusations, it's like, okay, so that's why you didn't want them to press charges. That's why you didn't want anyone to go to the police.
Yeah.
That's why I just can't imagine like looking somebody in the face and like, you're supposed to be their pastor. You're supposed to care for them. You're supposed to help them. And you think that doing the right thing is telling them not to go to the police. Like,
to preserve a ministry, preserve an image,
yeah, it's sick.
avoid publicity, this, that, the other. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. It makes you just really
Yeah, it makes you sick.
question reality. Any more in there?
I'll do one more. Let's see. Okay. If you know nothing, then silence is best. If you do know something, however, then silence is complicity. Until justice is executed here, I will never remain silent. I just respect that so much because you know that he's getting hate.
Yeah.
And you know that there is, as far as I've seen, he's the only person that's like speaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Steve Strang of Charisma Magazine. And here's what I'll say too, and we'll probably start to shut down unless there's any, obviously you can respond to this or share anything else you're feeling. But I feel strongly that it is the removal of the old guard. And like the way I see Steve Strang responding, who is the director of Charisma Magazine, and all the great things he's done, that's great. But the way I see him responding is in defense of Mike, and open to maybe Mike did something, but in defense of Mike. Rick Joyner, same thing, old guard. And it's not that old guard doesn't mean you're an old person. You can be a part of the new guard as an old person, but it's about an old mindset, and it's about like, it's almost like this club where you just protect each other. It's like, it doesn't matter how long y'all have been in ministry together, how buddy y'all been, what your experiences were, or things you remember about Mike when you're preaching with him, he preached at your church, this, that, or the other. It doesn't matter. What matters is truth and justice. What matters is reality. And unfortunately, the reason why the charismatic or conservative church gets a bad rap is because they do things like this. And it takes like just talking even conservative politically, the church as a whole mostly is conservative politically. But the reason why the more, I guess you'd say, like liberal church side, or the left leaning side of the church gets more like, they're more about the justice issues and things like that. Like they're more about equity and justice. And I'm not talking like, there's a lot in that statement to unpack, because there's things that are totally, I highly like, usually that ends up going the route of universalism, liberation theology and all this stuff, which I'm no expert on, but I'm also no like stranger to. That's the people. You're going to have to listen to liberal theologians about these type of issues if you don't get your act together. Hear me on that. Pastors, you will have to listen to liberal theologians that will lead your people down a path of just being politically about justice and politically into this stuff. And then they will theologically go to universalism, Christocentric universalism, or just universal, or just going to the ecumenical church, frankly, honestly, or going to like, traditional religious things like that. But anyway, I think we got to get our act together and we got to pay attention. And the Me Too movement happened. I get that some of it was like orchestrated possibly by Hollywood elites and these different things, but a lot of it, guys, we have to pay attention. And we just have to listen to these voices and understand that the statistics show much higher on the realm of, because I've heard stories of guys that literally got in trouble for false, and then it turned out to not be true, or in some way it was proven to not be true. But 92% of the time it is. So we got to listen to these victims. Anything else you want to say to close it out?
I think that's all. Yeah.
I think that's it. Well, y'all, we appreciate you plugging in for these episodes. Like I said at the beginning, if you're just finding us because of this story, my background is many years at IHOP, and then with IHOP stuff and in ministry, and we run an insurance agency. We lead our family. We are plugged in at our local church. We just share our life with people. And stay plugged in if you want to hear more from us. We're definitely going to be reacting to more stuff moving forward because found this to be really helpful for many people, and people have reached out saying that. So we'll continue to do this. So, all right, awesome.
Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up.